What if a single ray of sunlight could kill you? What if a legendary monster lived among us and her only crime was being born with a broken gene? This is the true story behind one of the world's rarest medical mysteries. This is Diagnosis Glitch. At 2:03 p.m. on the hottest day of spring, a crowd gathered at Fairview High. The challenge was simple: 5 minutes in the sun. By the time the door finally opened, the laughter had stopped and a girl named Emily lay blistered and motionless, her skin burning, her eyes open but seeing nothing. Was this just a prank, or was it something darker, a legacy of fear and myth that reaches back centuries? Before that day's scream, there were countless whispers. Emily's life was built on lockdown routines most never see. Her mother fighting the insurance company for rare disease medication again and again. Her father trying to bring normalcy with jokes and classic horror flicks, but the pain never left. Emily's private world shrank every year. Blackout curtains, sunblock so thick it left white streaks, gloves in July, hats at midnight, pharmacy bags with the word porphyria, a condition invisible and unpronounceable to most. She memorized the sensation: a burn, an itch, a stab, the taste of iron in her mouth when the sun did what it always threatened. Most classmates knew her only as the quiet one, behind the hoodie, the punchline for garlic jokes, TikTok dares, and Snapchat memes. Vampire girl. Don't let her bite. Locker stuffed with clothes, Instagram stories poking fun at her allergy to daylight. But while TikTok spread hashtag vampire disease like wildfire with clips from Morbius and Twilight, Emily scrolled past in silence. Her reality was nothing like the movies. In her sketches, she drew heroes who lived in darkness, villains who were secretly hurting. She never showed anyone those drawings. In real life, every day felt like a game of Russian roulette with the sun. The symptoms twisted, evolved, burning hives on days without any open window, unexplainable pain, deep fatigue, confusion, ER visits where doctors labeled her with allergies or anxiety, then sent her home, a familiar story for rare disease patients worldwide. George III, Maria I, Vincent van Gogh, all suffered, all misunderstood before science caught up. But the world didn't care about history. They wanted something to point at, something to laugh at, someone to blame. Rumors grew roots in the school feeds. Emily's a monster. Her mom never goes out in daylight. Dracula jokes morphed into Snapchat chants, more garlic, more cruelty. The bullying wasn't just background noise, it was poison. Meanwhile, Emily tried to crack her own case. Poring over rare disease blogs at night, reading about others with porphyria, a woman in the US nearly killed by garlic, a 30-year-old wrongly treated for appendicitis. She scribbled notes, theories, trying to solve the mystery behind her shifting symptoms. In science class, her curiosity glowed. She learned about hemoglobin, enzymes, and the tiny flaws that detonated her life's careful structure. Every attack, a piece of the puzzle. The medical world struggled with invisible disorders, the medical mystery genre filling Netflix recommended lists. But for Emily, the true mystery was survival itself. Was she missing another diagnosis? Would someone finally see the real monster ignorance that hurt her more than any sunlight could? And every moment outside her fortress felt like bait on a hook. The dare arrived, as they always do, cruel, casual, unrelenting. 5 minutes in the sun, and you can sit with us. One desperate shot for belonging, one step into the light. Phone's ready, the lock clicks. The next chapter in a story older and more terrifying than myth. In that courtyard, surrounded by cheers and phone screens, Emily's agony became viral. The real medical mystery, the one buried by laughter and legend, was finally forced into the open. The instant Emily touched sunlight, her skin began to betray her. Cells erupted in a chemical firestorm, nerves pulsing pain signals so fierce the world shrank to a single desperate wish. Make it stop. But voices outside cheered. Phones recorded. Hunger for cruel proof stronger than empathy. When the door unlocked, what the crowd saw was nothing like what they expected. Emily collapsed, sunburns more like acid wounds, breath shallow, heart racing. Her eyes, shields against the world, couldn't conceal pure terror. A teacher ran for help, but the truth is, it was already too late. News travels faster than pain. Within hours, Emily's agony exploded across screens and feeds. The story mutated. Vampire meltdown at Fairview High. Hashtags multiplied. Hashtag vampire challenge. Hashtag diagnosis glitch. Hashtag sunlight test. On TikTok, memes and edits drowned out pleas for understanding. Kids argued in comments, was it a hoax, a stunt, or karma? Sympathy was rare, scoffs went viral. But in an ER room under buzzing fluorescent lights, the real medical mystery began to unfold. Emily's diagnosis? Acute porphyria crisis, triggered by UV. Second-degree burns, internal inflammation, kidney function tanking from the onslaught. The medical team scrambled. IVs, painkillers, tests. An older nurse murmured, "I've only seen 2 cases like this in 40 years. The world saw a viral video. Doctors saw a battle with biology itself. Yet behind the medical machinery, another puzzle simmered. Why had Emily's symptoms spiraled so gravely? Blood panels revealed a dangerous spike in porphyrins, those rogue molecules responsible for the vampire myth. But the story wasn't new. Medieval records in England and New England tell of sun-cursed victims burned by sunlight, their red teeth and wild eyes twisted into monsters by neighbors' ignorance. The case deepened with each report. The hospital team reached out to rare disease experts, specialists re-examined her history. They scoured databases, the American Porphyria Foundation, cases of mistaken identity worldwide. There was the young woman in the US whose life nearly ended after being served garlic-laced food, a Brazilian teen written off as mentally ill before her true diagnosis emerged. Emily's story was theirs, a puzzle with pieces lost in translation between science and superstition. Doctors staged interventions, protective isolation, targeted therapies, enzyme inducers, but even as they fought for her life, the outside world was spiraling. The school became crime scene and battleground. Police arrived, interviewing students, coaches, even casual bystanders. Phones were confiscated, and chat logs examined. A digital trail emerged. Days of bullying, cryptic DMs, threads with subject lines like "Daywalker, do it for the views." True crime shows on Netflix began featuring segments on medical mysteries and mob mentality. Local news ran split screens. Hospital updates on one side, viral edits on the other, blending science with spectacle, tragedy with meme culture. Meanwhile, the hospital's geneticist dove deep into the mystery. Emily's case wasn't just classic porphyria. It had twists. Her attacks triggered by odd, unpredictable factors. Research journals cited similar medical outliers, cases where stress, infection, or even hormonal shifts brought on catastrophe. The science was evolving in real time, tracking questions no one dared ask before. Inside the school, the aftermath rippled out. Anti-bullying posters were slapped above water fountains, but students whispered about curses. Teachers sat through emergency rare disease seminars, eyes down, guilt rising. The medical team finally stabilized Emily, but she was changed, scarred deeper than any burn. Her journal entries turned from sketches to case notes, cataloging symptoms, plotting patterns, piecing together the riddle of her own body. She became her own detective, seeking science behind suffering no one else could see. As pain receded, another question surfaced, harsher than any diagnosis. Was Emily's case freak happenstance, a never-before-seen twist of fate? Or would her medical mystery become a warning, one that might save or doom the next misunderstood victim? 3 weeks after the incident, Fairview wasn't just recovering, it was unraveling. The schoolyard was roped off, the spot where Emily had fallen covered now with flowers. apology notes, and silence. An investigation threaded through every hallway, every group chat, every digital shadow. The police traced digital footprints, screenshots, videos, messages labeled just for fun. It became clear that Emily's suffering was mapped by pixels and hashtags, planned, executed, and broadcast to a heedless world hungry for drama. But as officers dug deeper, the case took an unexpected turn. Among the jokes and memes was a search for cause. A handful of classmates had started researching Emily's condition days before the dare. Did anyone truly understand what porphyria was, or were they all simply playing with fire? In the hospital, Emily's file thickened with notes. Her blood work didn't merely confirm a diagnosis, it painted a molecular fingerprint of inherited tragedy. Scientists pored over her test results, double-checked for mimics and red herrings. Emily's gene mutation, they realized, was not rare in name alone, it was rare in the way it behaved. Fluctuating cycles, new toxic thresholds, symptoms that didn't fit the textbook. She had become the focus of global rare disease groups, her case submitted to geneticists as the new twist in a centuries-old riddle. Medical journals have documented these anomalies, patients whose suffering rewrote the boundaries of classic diseases. King George III's madness, Vincent van Gogh's fits, Maria I's exile. Ancient folklore transmuted illness into legend. Now, Emily's symptoms, caught frame by frame, pixel by pixel, were not myth, but proof. Meanwhile, pop culture devoured the story. Producers scrambled to option the rights for docudramas. YouTube creators dissected the viral footage alongside clips from House MD and Morbius, drawing lines between real suffering and the sanitized pain of fiction. Popular true crime podcasts debated whether Emily's attack was a hate crime or a sick social experiment. Hashtags surged again, but this time, there were threads weaving in scientific explainer videos dissecting porphyria, making awareness trend for the first time. A national expert, captivated by Emily's file, arranged a virtual grand rounds. Her scans, blood results, and clinical notes were beamed to leading specialists. A consensus emerged. Emily's form of porphyria exposed unstudied gaps in diagnosis and risked being mistaken for everything from lupus to psychiatric illness, just as had happened to so many before her. The school board was forced into public session, parents and advocates packing the auditorium. Families demanded to know why bullying had gone unchecked, why a child with a deadly rare disease was treated like a prop in a digital witch hunt. School counselors, prompted by global outrage, began rethinking support for students with invisible illnesses. All the while, Emily focused on recovery. Her notebooks shifted from pain to investigation, tracking patterns, correlating triggers, assembling a roadmap that would end up on the desk of medical researchers. Her case was now a teaching tool, her voice, powerless in person, changing the world as her story was told and retold. For every cruel meme, there came a wave of genuine messages. Kids and parents from around the world, others with rare and misunderstood maladies, sharing, for the first time, I see myself in someone who lived. And as doctors' understanding deepened, policy changed. The school's science curriculum added a real-world case study, how Emily's body became a battleground for myth and medicine, and how students armed with knowledge, not fear, could save a life.